The title is one thing. I actually kind of get the title because, again, it's clickbait YouTube, but I do think this thumbnail is probably a bit more problematic because this, to me, does really promise unrealistic expectations, which could align with an easily misinterpreted title. My hair's all over the place. I think I need a haircut. What is going on? So, few things quickly before we get into the video. You already kind of know what the video is going to be tickling because obviously it's in the title. The TFNL coaching waiting list is still live down below in the description box. Although I'm not taking on any clients right now, I will be probably quite shortly. And then I can contact people directly if you are interested in pursuing that path with me. In addition to that, one thing we're actually tickling now, new big update I'd say for the channel, is content every day. Thanks to my friend Max, he's going to be editing loads of short form content for me. The typical schedule remains, you know, on a Monday and a Thursday I'll upload long form content like these videos. On a Tuesday and Thursday I'll likely stream over on TFNL Gaming, and on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday I'll upload short form content here, and then I'll upload short form content and other bits and bobs on TikTok, Snapchat and Instagram every single day. So basically there's going to be content every single day on pretty much all of my platforms. So that's all thanks to Max for being kind enough to even offer his services to edit, as he is a good friend of mine. Basically that's that. I've waffled on already. I was trying not to waffle, but we've done it anyway. We're going to crack on with the video, actually. And what we're doing, again, this individual has been on the list for months and months and months, and that's GetFitByIvana. It seems like she's very much a home workout creator. There's quite a lot of different types of videos out there, some stretching videos, some more resistance training videos, kind of all these bits and bobs. But she's been popping up in my comment section for ages. And recently, a few people actually messaged me saying, Harry, I've seen workouts like this a lot, and this individual is one of the ones who creates workouts like this. It makes a lot of kind of bold claims here, where she's stating that you can essentially increase your chest size naturally at home with no equipment with this 10-minute boob lift workout, which I think that's another can of worms we need to unpack. But before we do so, we need to do what needs to be done. If at any point throughout this video you decide you'd like the video, then please let me know you like the video by liking the video, and maybe even subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, then please do consider dropping it down below in the comment section for the comment question of the week, and I shall do so. The hat today is following a similar trend to the one last week. It's like a bit of fluff in the hat, but it's like right down there. I can't get it out. Oh, I've got the fluff. Oh, that didn't sound good. Oh, I've ruined it. Oh no, what have I done? So let's have a look. Chest lift, 40 seconds on, 10 seconds off. For some reason, I find it's like I think it's like an OCD trait of mine, where if it's 40 and 10, obviously that totals 50 seconds. I'm just thinking, do like 45 and 15, 50 and 10, because I want it to add a minute, because it's such an easy number to round up to. And for some reason, that's just emotionally getting to me right now. So press, squeezes, press, over and under squeeze, hand release. Based on first impression, these are very much movements I would expect someone like Bloggolates to produce, because again, I know she's a big fan of things like press, squeezes and stuff like that. Already, I'm kind of uncertain, but we're going to see what happens. You know, open mind. To be honest, this would actually be more considered, I guess, based on first impressions, a fly variation rather than a press variation. So technically, would it not be a prayer fly? Again, this applies with every exercise, and this applies to pretty much all goals. It doesn't mean you're focusing on hypertrophy or anything. It could be any focus where the development of muscle to an extent is present, any goal that aligns with that. You have to work the muscle through an appropriate range of motion and against appropriate resistance for it to really do anything. And what I mean by that, gravity is pulling her elbows down to the floor. We see pulling the elbows down. She's coming across. Gravity is not hindering that movement. Gravity is actually going to be working more of the shoulders because it's going to be wanting to pull the shoulders down, but she's fighting them up. Therefore, the delts themselves are going to be having to maintain that position. And this movement through the pecs, again, isn't against gravity because gravity's down there, not behind us. Therefore, not actually directly working the muscles that are intended, being the chest, the pec region. Immediately, we're kind of off to a bit of a questionable start. Like I said, this is not based on hypertrophy or anything along those lines. It's just as simply as if you are trying to work that muscle to an extent for whatever goal that may be, surely you would want to take it through an appropriate range of motion to achieve what you want to achieve. So this is a slight variation. So obviously we're going up and down, which again, because gravity is going down and we're fighting up against it, that's going to be very much delt dominant. So obviously the shoulders. But the only difference you'll notice here is because she is pressing her hands together, this could almost give the illusion that the pecs themselves are working more than they actually are. So obviously one of the primary functions of the pecs is essentially bring the humerus across the body. Once you bring the humerus across the body and you press your hands into themselves, and this pressing together is like like I said, is going to cause the pecs to contract. This is not because the muscle is working any harder, you are simply actually just tensing. This actually kind of highlights something I do speak about quite often, which is sensation doesn't necessarily correlate to effectiveness, because biomechanically the pecs are not in a position where they're going to be prime movers here. It's going to be more of the shoulders, but because she's squeezing her hands together, thus causing that kind of intense sensation in the pecs, people are going to be under the illusion that they are the prime movers, and therefore because it hurts it must be working. But in actual fact, you can make, for lack of a better term, a bad movement feel effective just by thinking about squeezing muscles, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is effective. If this was against resistance, it would be almost replicating something like a cable crossover, which is something I have spoken about before, where I wasn't a big fan of the inconsistent arm path, which also makes it quite hard to standardize technique because again it's swapping every rep. Again, the same thing, because gravity is pulling down, the majority of the tension is going to be placed on the shoulders here. The pecs again are not prime movers or not doing mass amounts of work. I think the press up is actually a fairly effective pec movement, and of the movements we've seen thus far, this is the one I would actually say do this is good. Lifting hands off the floor is not adding any additional intensity. It's essentially just allowing you to relax at the bottom, which is fine. You can do that. It's not providing any additional benefit to the pecs here. And again, the reach out here, I question what purpose it serves other than adding additional movement for the sake of kind of looking a bit cooler, which is fine. Because it's not harming you or it's not detrimental, you can certainly add these additional movements if you feel they make the movement more fun, more enjoyable, or just spice things up a bit. I think that's absolutely fine. Anything, if it helps you do the work or it helps you perform these movements, I would actually encourage it. Again, it's almost a shame that this is a no equipment workout, because this movement itself, if there was literally just a band behind her, maybe on like a door around the corner or something, this would be a really effective movement for the chest, because the fly motion itself is actually quite solid. So you can see she's going across with straight arms. Obviously you could bend the arms a bit more on the way back to take pressure off the bicep if there was a band behind her. But this movement itself against resistance, like I said, would be really good for the pecs, and would actually very much align with the title of the workout of attempting to increase chest size. Chest size not coming from the element of breast size, but chest size coming from the element of like the muscle. The breasts themselves are largely fat tissue, and doing workouts is not actually going to directly increase the breast size itself. Doing workouts that take the body through an appropriate range of motion against adequate resistance could in fact increase the muscle size, which would sit underneath the breast and underneath the fat tissue, potentially giving the illusion that is actually contributing to a greater breast size, when in actual fact it's not. You're actually developing a separate tissue. You're developing the contractile tissue, being the muscle, underneath. So I find titles like that slightly misleading, but I am going to kind of get to that very shortly. To be honest, the majority of this workout, although we have actually seen a couple of good movements, like the press up variations I was a big fan of. I think just press up variations in general, especially in the realm of home workouts, regardless of what your goals are, hypertrophy, getting stronger, learning to just move your body weight more efficiently and more effectively, I think press up variations are actually fantastic, and I very much align with doing them. It's just a shame that the workout itself is almost like devalued to an extent by implementing other movements like this, which I think, regardless of what your goals are, in the grand scheme of things, are actually relatively ineffective and potentially could be a waste of your time, depending on what you're trying to achieve. If you're simply looking for a movement to any degree, then movement is movement, and I respect it. And I think if you're doing something, it's better than nothing. But if you are doing this workout with the intention of increasing your chest size, that would imply there's an element of hypertrophy there, because again, you're an element of growth and muscle growth, I should say. Therefore, movements like a lot of the movements we've seen previously, although they will burn a lot, absolutely, they will cause mass sensation in the area you're looking to target, they will likely not be effective, and they will likely not yield the results that you are promised. Whereas prioritizing push-up variations, I think, would be a much better bet. Obviously, we've seen a few of them already thus far in this workout, and I think they are actually genuinely effective movements, because they very much replicate press movements, which again we know are very effective, and they take the pecs through the intended range of motion, which is again humerus slightly across the body, against adequate resistance, because now you're pressing against gravity. When gravity's trying to pull you to the floor, you're trying to push away from it. That's fantastic. It is a shame we don't see more of these. One thing I do actually really like is almost this addition of this intensifier, where it's slow down on your feet, then drop to the knees for the concentric, because typically it's much easier for us as humans to load the eccentric portion of the rep rather than the concentric portion. So what I mean by that is the way down we can usually handle a lot more load than the way up. So when you do things like this, where you're in a harder position on the way down, so being on the feet, then on the way up you drop to your knees to push push up again, I think it's a really good like progression stepping stone into performing a full push-up. So I actually really like that. I thought it was a really good inclusion. And again, another thing that does pull the workout back is, despite seeing quite a lot of ineffective movements throughout this workout, there are a lot of press-up variations, which I get a bit boring. I understand that, but I also fully acknowledge at home, when you're limited to no equipment and we deem press-ups to be one of the more effective chest movements you can do at home, I actually very much align with what Ivana is doing here, basically doing a lot of them, but just different variations of them. One of the issues I potentially have with workouts like this in a lot of cases is the kind of promise of like a boob lift workout. To me, externally, again, I know I'm a man, so maybe I'm interpreting this differently, but I'm trying my best to understand. It's to me, when I see like a boob lift workout, that in my eyes, in my mind, implies that it's going to essentially lift your breast tissue. Again, developing the muscle underneath the breast could potentially create more of a support and a foundation, which could technically contribute to supporting that tissue. And due to the additional wording here being workout to increase chest size naturally, to me, I think it would be really easy to misinterpret this as a workout that could help you develop your breast size and increase your breast size. And again, that's actually really highlighted by the thumbnail, because obviously you can see there's a substantial difference in size here. I get clickbait, it's very important on YouTube, that is just a fact and it's just what it is. But to this extent, is clickbait appropriate when it's this misleading and promises unrealistic expectations of bodies and what you can expect from your body? I'm not sure. One of the things I really worry about, and one of the things that concerns me about workouts like this, which I kind of mentioned with the ME1 workout quite a while back actually, a lot of young women may well actually come across workouts like this with the intention or the idea that it's going to increase their breast size. And this desire could come from all sources. It could come from societal pressures, it could come from peer pressure, it could come from the media, so many things to consider. I think there's a lot of pressure on women in general to look a certain way. And I think when you're young, you may be even more susceptible to that pressure. And when you are under so much pressure, be that as a teenager, be that as a young adult, whatever it may be, I'm not surprised that a lot of people may start looking for workouts like this, indirectly kind of promise potentially unrealistic expectations that very much align with an insecurity that a lot of potential consumers might be having. Therefore, it would encourage those consumers to click on this video due to said insecurities or said body image pressures they may be facing, only to leave them potentially even feeling disappointed with the fact that they didn't get the boob lift that they feel they were promised. And that makes me question a couple of things. It makes me question creator intention. I will always give people the benefit of the doubt. I may be looking too much into it and maybe hyperanalyzing something that doesn't need to be hyperanalyzed, but it's just where my brain went. So again, I give the creator the benefit of the doubt here and say that was not intentional and that's not what she was desiring. But then the second thing I question is, what contribution could the unrealistic expectations that are potentially being promised and the results that don't match those expectations, and what impact could that have on the body image of the women who are conducting or engaging in these workouts? Be that teenagers, be that young adults, be that kids potentially, be that adults, whoever it may be. If you're indirectly promised something like a boob lift through a workout and you don't experience the results you're promised, not only have body image pressures led you to this workout, but the lack of results might then further enhance body image issues stemming from those pressures you may be facing. The title is one thing. I actually kind of get the title because again, it's clickbait YouTube, but I do think this thumbnail is probably a bit more problematic because this to me does really promise unrealistic expectations which could align with an easily misinterpreted title. Again, those are just my thoughts and opinions that are kind of just coming to my head as we go. I wasn't planning on speaking about that to an extent, that's not on my video notes, but it just came with me and I thought it'd be an opportunity to just verbalize my opinion. I'd actually love to hear yours. Like, what are your thoughts on titles that could be easily misinterpreted, and do you think these could contribute to potential body image issues? But now we're actually going to quickly crack on the comment question of the week because I have rambled on for way too long. What's new? When you rotate your arms during an Arnold press, what is the purpose of that movement? When you bring the weight down, where is the best place to stop before you lift up again? To me, it's the rotation of the arms during an Arnold press, because essentially a normal shoulder press you're going up and down, an Arnold press you're coming in and out. It doesn't actually really serve much of a purpose at all. It doesn't increase the effectiveness of the movement. All it does is essentially limit how much load you can use and take you through a range of motion, which is probably not necessary. So when it says what the purpose is, I question whether there is really a purpose. The intended purpose was always to essentially place a bit more emphasis on the anterior delts by bringing the dumbbells in front of you. That's not necessarily necessarily the case, and that additional movement essentially reduces the effectiveness of a really effective movement being the standard shoulder press. If you do want to include the Arnold press, I always say, you know what, you do what's best for you, and if you enjoyed the movement, I fully support it, you can. And what I would do is, I think when you bring it down, I would go to your natural range of motion, which is as low as you can go, and then just rotate in and maintain that natural range of motion. It's going to typically be in line with the chin, also your hand is kind of roughly in line with the anterior delts or just above. And by anterior delts, I mean like the front of the delt here. So from a side-on perspective, you might come down to about there. But again, that depends on your range of motion and your mobility. Like I said, it's not necessarily a movement I would include, but if you are going to include it and want to include it, then perhaps that tip could help you. That is it. That is a video. Like I said at the start of the video, if you like the video, then please let me know you like the video by liking the video. And if you fancy it, you know, you want to tickle the red button down below and subscribe to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you two have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, then please do consider drop it down below in the comment section for the comment question of the week, and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the fact that I nearly ripped the hat on my head, and thank you for tolerating the video.